The opening of this monologue is about a connection that feels impossible to ignore. The speaker begins by rejecting a gentle approach. I won't mirror it softly this time, which immediately creates the feeling that something serious and deeply personal is about to be revealed. The main idea of part 1. I built distance to protect myself, but you reached me without trying. The speaker explains that they have always controlled how much of themselves others are allowed to see. They live in layers, meaning they show people only what they choose to reveal. This distance is not because they dislike people. It is a method of protection and control. Then comes the turning point, until you. The other person is described as different because they do not try to analyze, fix, label, or understand the speaker through normal methods. Instead, they simply observe and recognize. The speaker is affected because this person notices things that are usually hidden. Unspoken, thought silent, emotion small, change things. The speaker never explains. The powerful theme here is being seen without having to explain yourself. The speaker is not saying, someone finally loves me. They are saying, someone finally understands the parts of me that I normally keep unreachable. The conflict begins because the speaker values control. They are used to deciding who gets close, who stays distant, what people know about them. But this person bypasses those rules naturally. The line, "You didn't break them, you just made them irrelevant," shows the biggest shift. The other person did not force their way in. They created a connection where the old defenses no longer felt necessary. The emotional tension of part 1 is, the speaker is not afraid of the other person. They are afraid of how easily they feel understood, the deeper message. Sometimes the strongest connections are not created through constant talking or effort. They come from a feeling of recognition, when someone seems to understand your nature before you have explained your story. I spent years making sure nobody could truly reach me, and then someone arrived who didn't need to break through. They simply understood the door was already open. Part 2 continues with the speaker realizing that this connection is not just a momentary feeling. It has become something that is changing the way they experience another person. The central idea, you didn't enter my world through effort, you entered through recognition. The speaker is disturbed because normally deep understanding comes from time. Shared memories, years of knowing, someone slowly discovering their personality. But with this person, that normal process did not happen. The speaker feels like, you understood me before you had enough time to learn me. That creates a strange feeling because it challenges everything they believe about connection. The speaker has always controlled access to themselves. They carefully decide what people see. But this person does not push past boundaries. They simply exist in a way that makes those boundaries feel unnecessary. A major theme appears here. Control versus natural connection. The speaker's identity is built around control, controlling emotions, controlling vulnerability, controlling how they are perceived. But this connection works differently. The person does not demand openness. They do not ask, tell me everything. Explain yourself. Show me who you are. Instead, they create a space where the speaker naturally reveals more. That is why the speaker finds it powerful. The line, you didn't follow any of those rules, you didn't break them either, means this person is not a threat. They are something unfamiliar. Someone who makes the speaker question why those defenses existed in the first place. Another important point. The speaker notices the power of silence. Most people become uncomfortable when there are no words. They try to fill the silence, but this person can stay quiet without making it awkward. That silence becomes a form of understanding. The speaker feels, you don't need my explanation to understand my existence. The emotional shift happens when the speaker admits. They are starting to stop filtering themselves, not because they plan to, not because they decided to trust, but because being understood feels natural. The speaker is discovering that the rarest connection is not someone who knows everything about you. It is someone who does not require you to hide anything. I built my identity around being unreadable, but you made being understood feel safer than being hidden. Moves deeper into the speaker's realization. This connection is no longer just about being understood. It is about being accepted without needing to change. The central idea. You saw the parts of me I usually protect, and you didn't try to fix them. The speaker explains that most people, when they encounter someone complicated or emotionally guarded, try to adjust them, make them more open, make them easier to understand, make them less intense, make them fit into a simpler version. But this person does something different. They do not manage the speaker. They do not reshape them. They simply accept what is already there. That creates a powerful realization. Being accepted by someone who does not fully see you is easy. Being accepted by someone who sees everything is rare. The speaker feels that this person belongs to the second category. This creates the biggest emotional tension. If someone truly sees you, your usual protection stops working. The speaker can no longer hide behind. Being misunderstood, staying distant, controlling the image others have of them, because this person sees beyond the surface. The speaker says, in meaning, I can no longer use distance as protection, because you already understand the parts distance was supposed to hide. A major theme appears. The fear of being known. The speaker spent years trying to remain unreadable, not because they wanted to play games, but because being misunderstood hurts. When people think they understand you, they often create their own version of you. They project their own ideas. But this person does not do that. They observe what is actually there. That is what makes the connection feel accurate. The speaker describes a small moment where the other person says something simple, but it matches something unspoken inside them. That moment becomes proof. You weren't guessing. You were seeing. The difference is important. Guessing comes from the outside. Understanding comes from connection. The speaker is not overwhelmed because of intensity. They are affected because the connection feels precise, not dramatic, not chaotic, just strangely correct. Core, feeling of part 3. The scariest thing is not someone discovering my secrets. The scariest thing is someone understanding me without needing me to reveal them. Focuses on the moment where the speaker realizes this connection has started changing their inner world. The central idea, you are no longer just someone I notice, you have become part of the way I think. The speaker explains that something has shifted. This is no longer just about conversations or moments shared with the other person. The person has become a constant presence in the speaker's awareness. The important difference, thinking about someone means they are separate from you. Thinking with someone means their presence has become part of your mental process. The speaker notices small changes. Thoughts pausing as if expecting another perspective, moments feeling shared even in silence, certain realizations feeling connected to that person. This is where the speaker becomes unsettled. Why? Because they have always been self-contained. They are used to processing, alone making decisions, alone protecting their internal world. But now someone else has naturally entered that space. Not by force, not by asking, not by demanding. It simply happened. The phrase, you didn't cross into it, you appeared in it, shows the speaker's biggest confusion. They understand boundaries. They understand people entering and leaving. But this feels different. It feels like the person became part of their reality before they consciously allowed it. Another major theme, impact versus influence. The speaker says this is not about being controlled by someone. Influence can be resisted. Impact is different. Impact changes you quietly. It stays. It forces you to adjust around it. The speaker begins comparing the world differently. Conversations, reactions show people communicate not because they are judging others, but because they have experienced a different level of understanding. This creates a fear. What happens when something changes your baseline? The speaker's old normal has shifted, and the surprising part is they are not fighting it. Usually, anything that threatens their emotional structure would be removed or analyzed until it disappears. But this person has not been removed. They have been accepted. That realization is powerful because it means the speaker has already allowed something they normally would not. I spent my life protecting my inner world, and somehow you became part of it without breaking anything. Reaches a deeper point. The speaker stops asking, "Why is this happening?" and starts facing the reality that something has already changed. The central idea. I didn't choose to let you in, but I also didn't stop it. The speaker realizes this connection has moved beyond curiosity. It is no longer something they are simply observing from a distance. It has become part of their internal life. The biggest shift. Before, the speaker controlled everything. What they reveal, how close people get, how much they allow themselves to feel. But now, control is not the main factor anymore. The connection exists without permission. The speaker is uncomfortable because they cannot place it into their usual categories. They usually understand things by analyzing them, defining them, giving them a name. But this connection does not arrive with a clear label. It exists first, explanation comes later. A powerful theme appears. Acceptance before understanding the speaker normally needs certainty before allowing something to matter. But here, something mattered before they fully understood it. That is why this feels different. The speaker notices, I do not destroy what threatens my structure anymore. I am making space for it. That is the biggest admission. This person is not seen as a disturbance. They are seen as something that fits, and that creates a new fear. If something fits, then losing it creates a space that cannot simply be erased. The speaker says they normally close empty spaces quickly. They remove reminders. They move forward. But with this person, they are unsure if they could do that. This does not mean weakness. The speaker separates it from dependence or attachment. Instead, they describe it as something deeper, a change in the foundation. The person has changed the speaker's baseline, the normal way they think, feel, and interpret the world. The speaker is no longer wondering if this connection exists. They already know. The real question becomes, what do I do with something that has already become part of me? I didn't lose control because someone took it from me. I changed because something felt right enough that I stopped needing control. Part 6 is about the moment of acknowledgement. The speaker realizes they have reached a point where they can no longer just observe the connection. They have to face what it means, the central idea. Awareness has become a responsibility. Until now, the speaker could stay in a safe place, analyzing, observing, feeling the connection without naming it. But now they realize that avoiding a decision is also a decision. The connection has consequences. Not because of dramatic actions, not because of words, but because internally, something has already changed. The speaker notices. Their thoughts no longer return to the way they were before silence. Now feels meaningful. They measure honesty differently, the biggest realization. They have started considering the other person inside their own inner world. For someone who has always been independent and self-contained, this is significant. The speaker admits, I don't adjust my internal world for anyone, but I adjust it for you. That line represents surrender, not weakness, but acceptance. The conflict becomes recognition versus risk. The speaker knows this connection matters, but accepting it means entering uncertainty. Because once something is real, it requires choices, it requires vulnerability, it requires movement, and the speaker is someone who does not move without certainty. They prefer control. They prefer understanding before action. But this connection does not provide a guaranteed outcome. That is what makes it difficult. The speaker then looks at their own behavior. If this was wrong, if this was unhealthy, if this did not belong, they would have ended it already. They know themselves. They know they remove things that threaten their balance. But they stayed, not because they were confused, because some part of them recognized value, the deepest message. The speaker's silence is not avoidance anymore. It is acceptance. They are no longer asking, "Is this real?" They are asking, "What am I willing to do with something that is real?" The hardest thing was not realizing you matter. The hardest thing was accepting that I already made space for you before I admitted